Assalamualaikum and hello Ms. Haddi. Today our group will be presenting an analysis of two English language test instruments administered to Form 3 students in a Malaysian government secondary school. The purpose of this analysis is to evaluate how effective these test papers are in assessing students' English language abilities. To do this, we examine the papers based on several principles of language assessment, including validity, reliability, authenticity, and alignment with curriculum standards. The two papers selected are part of the final examination for the 2003-2004 academic session and focus primarily on reading, grammar, vocabulary, and writing skills. Before analyzing the test papers, it is important to understand what a language test is. According to Bachman, Brown, and Hodges, a language test is a systematic assessment tool used to measure learners' language ability and performance. It evaluates students' knowledge, language skills, and communicative competence for educational purposes. Next, a good language test should fulfill several important criteria. The first one is validity, which refers to whether a test measures what it is intended to measure. For example, a reading test should fulfill or assess reading skills rather than unrelated abilities. The next one is reliability, which refers to the consistency of the test result. A reliable test should produce similar results regardless of who marks it or when it is administered. The third one is practicality. A practical test should be manageable in terms of time, resources, administration, and scoring. The fourth is authenticity. Authenticity refers to how closely the test resembles real-life language use. Students should be given opportunities to engage with language in meaningful and realistic situations. The last one is washback, which refers to the influence of the test on teaching and learning. A good test should encourage meaningful language learning and support curriculum objectives. Now, I will briefly describe the two test papers selected for this analysis. The assessment consists of two examination papers administered to Form 3 students in a Malaysian government secondary school. Since the examination is conducted at the end of an instructional period, it functions as a summative assessment that evaluates students' learning outcomes. Okay, paper 1 focuses on reading comprehension, grammar, vocabulary, and language use. The paper consists of 5 parts and carries a total of 40 marks. Students are given 1 hour and 30 minutes to complete it. Part 1 consists of multiple choice questions with 8 marks. Part 2 focuses on error correction and also carries 8 marks. Part 3 contains short answer comprehension questions. And Part 4 consists of information transfer and vocabulary tasks with a total of 10 marks. Finally, Part 5 includes a gap text completion task with 6 marks. Overall, Paper 1 assesses students' ability to understand written text, identify language errors, retrieve information, interpret meaning, and apply vocabulary knowledge. Paper 2 focuses on writing skills and carries a total of 40 marks. Students are given 1 hour to complete 2 writing tasks. In Part 1, the students are required to write a short message of approximately 80 words in response to a situational prompt. In Part 2, students write a guided essay of between 100 to 200 based on the topic of mobile phone usage. Through these tasks, students are assessed on their ability to communicate ideas, organize information, and use appropriate language forms in writing. Next, we analyze the alignment of book papers with the standard-based English language curriculum, or so-called SBLC for Form 3. For Paper 1, most sections are aligned with the reading-related learning standards. However, Part 1 appears relatively simple because students only need to identify directly stated information from short text. As a result, these questions may not fully assess higher order reading skills expected at the Form 3 level. On the other hand, Part 2, 3, 4, and 5 demonstrate stronger alignment with the curriculum. These sections require students to understand specific details, interpret information, use context clues, and identify relationship between ideas. Therefore, they reflect the intended reading outcomes more effectively. For paper 1, the alignment with the curriculum is generally strong, but one requires students to write a short message in response to a real-life situation, which helps develop their functional writing skills. Part 2 requires students to expand a given notes into a coherent essay, allowing them to organize and develop ideas systematically. Overall, both writing tasks reflect the learning standards outlined in the SPLC and support the development of students' written communication skills. In conclusion, the selected examination papers show a reasonable alignment with the SBLC Form 3 curriculum, although certain sections could be better in challenging students' higher order thinking skills. Okay, I will now pass the presentation to Aimi, who will discuss the evaluation of the test papers in terms of feasibility, content, construct validity, reliability, item types, and the level of difficulty.
Firstly, I will discuss the phase validity of the examination papers. Phase validity refers to whether a test appears clear, appropriate, and relevant to students and teachers. The papers demonstrate good phase validity because the instructions are clear and easy to understand. The font and layout are also consistent, making the papers easy to read and navigate. In addition, the use of visuals such as posters and mind maps helps provide contents to students. However, some reading passages appear dense due to limited spacing, and some visuals may become unclear when printed in black and white. Source reference are also not provided for several adapted texts. Overall, the examination demonstrates satisfactory phase validity. Next, I will discuss content and construct validity. Content validity refers to how well a test represents the syllabus, while construct validity refers to whether the test measures the intended language skills. For paper 1, students are required to identify information, understand context, and interpret meaning from text. Parts 3, 4, and 5 show stronger validity because they require deeper comprehension skills. For paper 2, the writing task assess students' ability to organize ideas and communicate effectively. Next, I will discuss reliability. Reliability refers to the consistency of a test. Paper 1 demonstrates good reliability because it uses objective item types such as multiple choice, matching, and error correction tasks, which allow more consistent scoring. The clear instructions also help reduce misunderstandings. However, the writing section may reduce reliability because no detailed marking rubric is provided. Some vocabulary items may also be difficult for lower proficiency learners. Overall, the assessment demonstrates moderate reliability. Moving on, I will discuss the item types and design. The assessment uses various item types including multiple choice questions, matching tasks, comprehension questions, closed passage, and writing tasks. This variety allows students to demonstrate different language abilities and provides broader assessment coverage. The writing tasks also encourage students to organize ideas and express opinions, which aligns with the curriculum objective. However, the heavy use of multiple choice questions may encourage guessing and provide limited opportunities for authentic language use. Overall, the examination has a well-structured test designed with a good variety of items types. Finally, I will discuss the level of difficulty. The examination demonstrates an appropriate level of difficulty for Form 3 students. The tasks range from simple information retrieval to more challenging reading comprehension and writing activities. This allows both lower order and higher order thinking skills to be assessed. However, some vocabulary items may be difficult for lower proficiency learners, while some multiple choice questions may be relatively easy. Overall, the examination provides a moderate and suitable level of difficulty for Form 3 students.
Moving on to the structural logistics of these instruments, let's look at time and mark allocation. For paper 1, giving students an hour and a half for 40 marks is generally appropriate. However, we notice that highly compressed dense text like our brain creates a heavily reading load that might slow down lower proficiency students. When we look at paper 2, students have 1 hour to complete 2 writing tasks which are equally at 20 marks each. We argue that this mark distribution isn't entirely balanced. Part 2 requires significantly more cognitive effort, organization, and expansion of ideas compared to the short message in Part 1, so it should carry a higher weight in the marking scheme. Next, let's analyze the real-world relevance and educational impact of these test papers, starting with authenticity. The tasks display a solid level of real-world relevance. For instance, writing an email to a friend about a movie or writing an essay about mobile phones are highly relatable communication tasks for teenagers today. The only drawback is that some reading topics such as Mars rovers contain scientific jargon that might alienate weaker learners. This brings us to the washback effect, the impact this test has on classroom learning. On the positive side, the productive writing tasks push students to practice coherence and organize their ideas. However, because paper 1 is heavily driven by objective, multiple choice items, it creates negative washback by encouraging students to focus on exam-oriented drilling and guessing tricks rather than genuine communicative competence. To synthesize our evaluation, our group has compiled critical recommendations to improve these instruments. While the papers map well to the Form 3 curriculum overall, key areas need adjustment. First, the basic reading questions in Paper 1, Part 1 are far too simple for Form 3 level, and they should be redesigned to target actual critical thinking rather than simple word matching. Second, since public school exams are printed in black and white, the highly saturated, colorful graphics used in these papers must be adapted into high-contrast grayscale to remain readable. Finally, to protect the reliability of the writing assessment, it is critical that a standardized analytical rubric is attached to paper 2 so that different teachers score the essays consistently. In conclusion, these examination papers function as valid and structured summative evaluation tools that effectively align with the SPELC Form 3 objectives. They offer a progressive scale of difficulty and reasonable time parameters for the students. However, by implementing the refinements we suggested regarding layout spacing, visual clarity, and grading rubrics, teachers can drastically minimize test taker anxiety and eliminate scoring bias. Ultimately, balancing structural practicality with authentic language tasks will ensure we are truly measuring our students' communicative competence. That concludes our presentation from Group 6. Thank you very much and Assalamualaikum.